Hello, welcome to Beyond the Test Strasz Talks. This is our second episode of our podcast. I'm so grateful for those of you who are taking time to watch, and I'd like to welcome a colleague of mine and a colleague of mine from the industry. So, first, welcoming Jay Myers from Strasz, as well as Trushant Mehta from OpenEyes to today's conversation. On today's episode, we're going to talk a bit more about the topic du jour within the testing world, which is, of course, AI. And for all of us coming out of the ATP Innovations in Testing Conference, it seemed that you couldn't go 15 seconds without a mention of AI around the conference halls. And so I wanted to follow up from that journey that we took together early this month in California and spend some time with both of these incredibly smart gentlemen in their areas of technology and really delve into a little bit of both, AI as it's evolving as well as how it's being used in testing and assessment. Now, first, let me allow these gentlemen to introduce themselves. So, Jay, take it away.
Hi, my name's Jay Myers. I'm a software developer at Strasz Assessment Systems. As Rory said, I was at ATP, and you could not go down the hall without having some kind of a conversation about AI, for sure. So I entered into I suppose the testing space kind of incidentally. So there was no desire or directed entry into it. It sort of I moved out of graduating college into at first it was medical, and then it became testing, sort of through sheer happenstance.
Well, nonetheless, we'll welcome you to our wild world, and I think we'll keep you. Um, so Trushant and I go way back as colleagues in the industry, and Trushant, I'm really pleased that you could join us, especially joining us today live from India.
Thank you for having me. Hey guys, I am Trushant Mehta. I am a co-founder and CTO for OpenEyes Technologies, where we emphasize in developing and designing AI strategies through our custom software development practice, helping clients build platforms like credentialing management system, candidate management system, item bank, assessment delivery platform, competency models, and so on and so forth. Happy to be here.
So, Trushant, we heard about how Jay, by happenstance and without intent, as he stated, got into the testing world. How about you? What brought you to the world of assessment?
Oh boy, it's quite. I would say I was a victim of being into the testing industry, and similarly as Jay, I was an accidental technologist in the industry as well, where coffee unfortunately doesn't meet the bagel all the times, right? So I saw an opportunity to make at least bagel meets the cream cheese kind of a thing, and started thinking more and more about about how and what technologically improvements and advancement that can be made. So 15 years ago, technology was not a big chunk of planning phase in the testing industry. When in 2008, when I was hired by US Green Building Council to architect a software platform that helped their customers applying and getting their LEED rating certifications for the buildings, that's where I met Dr. Manfred Strelly. We know all of him as in many, and eventually got a chance to meet you as well, Rory, through him. And by then, I have actually already started working with the assessment industry. However, I always call you as well as him as my angels to the testing world. So you both have actually made me understand how the assessment and testing industry works, and then rest of the history. So that's how actually I got into the industry.
Well, I'll be happy to take the credit or the blame, depending upon who's who's bringing it up. So let's jump right into our topic for today, which is AI, and we've already referenced just its ubiquity at the recent ATP conference. I think it spoke volumes to those of us who were there when we looked around the room when one of our keynote speakers asked, how many people in the room had used an AI, generative AI platform. And last year, that number was probably a dozen or less. This year, it was probably a dozen or less in the room who had not used it, which I just think speaks to its impact as well as the interest within our space. So, Trushant, I'm going to start with you here, if you don't mind, and just curious, stepping back from maybe testing and putting on your technologist hat, really, how have we seen AI evolve in I would say even the recent year or recent months? And what are some of the key developments in that evolution that you see has really led to the applications in testing and assessment?
Right. I think it's fair to say that in recent months, instead of the recent years, I mean, still AI is with us for a long, long time. It's just that in recent months, it's actually just got visibility like nobody else has done. Not even Facebook, Google, anyone else. That took a little while for them to get the visibility. But the AI, on the other hand, it got the visibility very rapidly. But we all must agree that it's truly fascinating to observe how AI has evolved over recent years and months, basically transitioning from theoretical concept to practical, impactful applications, also within the assessment and testing industry. So, as a CTO and AI evangelist, I have witnessed firsthand the remarkable evolution of the AI in recent years while I was working on my patent as well. So I knew about certain AI-related changes that coming up into our assessment industry, both from a learner's perspective as well as the business perspective. So I will divide this into two. From the learner's perspective, AI has fundamentally transformed the learning experience, making it more personalized, engaging, and efficient as well in certain cases and certain times. One of the most significant developments has been the rise of adaptive learning platforms, right? So these platforms uses AI to analyze a learner's performance in real time, adjusting the difficulties and focus of the content to suit their individual learning pace and style. There's personalization ensures that the learners are neither bored with the content or too easily, or nor actually overwhelmed by the content to difficult level also. Another key advancement is the use of the NLP, which is natural language processing, in the assessment itself. So NLP enables more sophisticated understanding and analysis of learners' responses to especially the open-ended questions, providing the richer feedback and insights into the knowledge and thought processes, right? So this is not the only help in accurately gauging the learners' comprehensive, but also supports them in developing the critical thinking and analytical skills as well. Now, if you think from the business and the educational institute perspective, then the automation of grading, the learners or assessments, especially for the standardized stats and multiple choice assessments, has significantly reduced the administrative burden, allowing for more frequent and widespread testing without a proportional increase in the resources or maybe at sometimes the expenses as well. AI-driven analytics and data insights have also been some game changers. So by aggregating and analyzing vast amount of assessment data, organizations or education institute, they can now easily identify the trends and predict the outcomes and make informed decisions about, say, like learning experience or even curriculum development or learning development, the documents or even the strategy or even just the support. So in a nutshell, the evolution of AI in recent years has brought about groundbreaking developments in the assessment and testing industries.
I appreciate that, Trushant, and especially the mention of, personalization and learning, because That was certainly another hot topic that continues to be discussed, and indeed how that might get introduced with personalized credentials or customized credentials,
Exactly.
which is going to be a fascinating topic to track. Jay, what about you? From your standpoint, what's been most impactful about that evolution and how it might be used in testing?
Well, when you look at AI itself, right? It's a tool like anything else, and I think that there's an interesting. I've noticed certainly, at least anecdotally, there's been an interesting. I suppose I'd say not bifurcation, or divide, but like there's a sort of set of people who will look at it as a tool that can be useful, that has its applications, and then there are sets of people who will look at it as something that is sort of you can sort of wave your hand at it and hope that it does all sorts of things, right, without a need to sort of understand it more deeply. And I think that it's such a vast area of study that there's a whole lot that goes into it, right? That's on top of just the effective use of it, right? So there's a wide variety of avenues to go down when you look at its application, right? So in the technology side of things, there's tons of areas where automation and efficient tooling can help you, right? It's sort of the same way that as development environments for writing code got more and more advanced, right? It's much easier to write code more efficiently, and in that same way, I think that there's lots of room for sort of like the AI co-pilots that you end up seeing. As far as testing specifically, I think that again, there's sort of a tug of war between the desire to not be the person who says, "Oh, the internet's a fad," sort of, and then also the desire and the need to keep certain aspects of the business sort of more either under wraps or confidential or secure in some way, right? And so there's a bit of a tug of war there, I think, and I think that there's a lot of innovation that goes on, and a lot of I see a lot of pushes towards using AI in lots of different ways, right? So there's obviously the generative AI of item creation, but then there's the more sort of nuanced uses of it that are getting more and more pushed towards. I think as everyone kind of gets tired about hearing about, what if we could generate items with AI, sort of, right? Then you have this deluge of item content, and even if it's all wonderful, you then have this massively increased burden on the poor human beings who are sifting through everything, right? So then it becomes sort of a race to apply the technology and the tools to alleviate that portion of the bottleneck.
No, completely agree there. And we are also featuring as a guest star today, Jay's dog there. So
yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. I mean, this is the wonderful thing about doing these types of recordings is we're here and we're here as we are. So there we go. So in any case, no, Jay, I mean, I really appreciate the mention, especially of we did seemingly get inundated, with workshops and sessions throughout the first quarter of this year, talking about generative AI and creating item content. And to your point, yes, at a certain juncture, I go back to the statement that I started making last fall. What about AI for the enterprise? And indeed, looking at the breadth of its application for credentialing organizations as businesses, as organizations that need to continue to get more efficient, because as usual, most of us in this industry are doing a lot with less, and certainly AI has the potential to help reshape that. Well, so I mean, I think that's an excellent entree to just what are the top applications that you see in testing and assessment? And I think, Jay, after that comment, maybe it can't be, increase item creation. No, but joking aside, yeah, I'm curious, really where you see those applications that have impact. And Jay, I'll let you take this one here first.
No, I was just going to say, I think that item generation and things like that are going to become sort of the new baseline, right? It's just sort of going to be part of it, right? In the same way that everyone's able to type up an item, right, on some piece of software. It's sort of going to become par for the course, sort of, so to speak. I think at least either some flavor of it or some agreement that it has a certain level of usefulness, and then sort of that's sort of where everything ends up. I think that there's a lot of potential for overcoming that sort of blank slate barrier that people might have if they're going to be writing an item, right? So if you're someone who is going to be tasked with creating an item from scratch, right? That sort of starting from nothing and that initial push, I think human beings are usually not great at that. But once something gets you started, you can kind of, even if you pivot a lot, I think that becomes something that AI would be very helpful with. Sorry.
It's okay.
And so then that's sort of one side of things, and then a lot of what I see is the ability to automate what are mentally taxing and not very tasks that human beings aren't necessarily very good at, right? So things like enemy identification, where there's a lot of different variables and nuances there, and it's always nice to have a human in the loop and human reinforced or reinforcement, human the feedback. I forget what the term of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but when it comes to things like, if you have a big list of items and you're tasked with identifying queuing or overlapping items in there, that's a very difficult task for a human being to do effectively and to keep track of. And I think it's something that there's always been the ability to automate that kind of task. I just think that it becomes much more flexible and much more efficient, and it can be produced quicker and updated and changed quicker with the advent of AI, right? So where you're not writing your own word stemming algorithm and doing your own sort of vector math behind the scenes, you can just sort of take a particular model that's been trained to do this and then pass information into it and then get some kind of a score back and then use that as at least a litmus test or a baseline to help guide human beings who are quite frequently lost in the fray of all that kind of information. I think that's one application. I think that there's a whole bunch more, but I'm sure Trushant has a lot more to say about it than I do.
Trushant, what are the top applications that you see there?
So no, he has said it in right manner about the item, but other than that, there are a few of them which is already made some headlines, but there are majority of them are still in progress. Even though they are ready, still they are taking a little baby step at a time, maybe due to the laws as well as the scrutiny and other things that they are going to face it. But still, I think the personalized learning path, which I have said earlier as well, automated essay scoring, because it takes a lot of time to use the summative analysis or any sort of the analysis that you want to do. I think the instant feedback as well as the tutoring would be also another one which could be used very easily with that. Anything to do with the data, so data-driven insights or the scalability of the assessment that if you want to do with AI, you can do it. Bias detections and fairness also could be there. I say detections, not like a dribble or anything else, because you have seen the Google Gemini, what it has been done if provided the wrong data or incomplete data, let me put it this way. But we can do the enhanced security and integrity with that as well. As far as applications, yeah, sure, we can do the AIG or auto item generations, but I think it should be an intelligent question generation. So you can actually generate the questions very intelligently, or you can perform the real-time performance analysis of the item, or even predictive analysis for the learner success. Language learning, like the Duolingo is doing it, and I had a session with the Duolingo in the ATP as well. Simulation-based analysis. I mean, there is a lot of things that AI would be able to actually do it, and all of them are, trust me, in pilot. It's just a matter of time. Everybody will actually come up with something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think the comment about being able to automate to the extent possible or streamline the very frequent tasks that we do within assessment organizations, particularly in credentialing organizations. When we think about the eligibility life cycle, when we think about that application and application processing, continuing education, there's so many, let's say, not as glamorous areas, but indeed that could be the biggest beneficiaries of some of this advancement. And while they might not have typically gotten some attention in the past at some of these conferences, I'm excited to see some of those case studies in the future, because having spent time both on the vendor side as well as on the client side, I know that most of the testing organizations that we all serve, it's very infrequent that they have extra hands standing around. So that is certainly a development I'm excited about. Well, Trushant, you mentioned really the pace of growth, somewhat being restricted by regulation and standards and such. And of course, the news of the past week and a half has circled around the EU AI Act and its ramifications, which of course will unfold quite a bit this year. But just the top line, headline of violators of the act, their most egregious, could stand to be fined up to 7% of their global revenue, is a scary enough prospect, I think, for those of us. Now, all that said, we also have our standards and our traditions, and of course, in testing, we're really worried about fairness and disparate impact. So, given what we saw with Google, Gemini, and some of these other forays where AI has just reinforced human bias, where are your top concerns about ethical use of AI in testing, and maybe how have you approached that in your organization with your team even?
Yeah, well, I start always with, whenever it comes to the ethical part of it, I always say that the genie is out of the bottle. So now we have to just make sure that how we can control it and what we can do. So even as a next world technologist and other things that we do here, I recognize the paramount importance of the fairness and the need to mitigate any disparate impact into the testing as well. So when incorporating the AI into these processes, several ethical concerns must be addressed, to ensure that we harness the AI's potential responsibly, right? So when the first and foremost is the data itself, so the training data. So the data that we are providing to our model and to the training, the bias in the data, training data, that's one of the key elements. So when AI algorithms learns from the historic data, which may contain inheritance, the biases, then obviously the final result will be the same. So if unchecked, these biases can be pre-populated and even amplified, leading to unfair outcomes in the assessments, right? So it's crucial to critically evaluate and cleansing the training database and data to ensure that they are representing the free of discriminatory biases, basically. So that's the first and foremost thing that we also do whenever we get the training data. We are just making sure that at least the data set is actually, clean as much as can. The second thing is going to be the transparency and the explainability, right? So many AI models, especially those who based on the deep learning, right, operates as in black boxes, which means it's making it very difficult and challenging to understand how they are arriving at the certain decisions. We do not know. We just input something, get some output, and we have no idea how it does. So in the context of testing, this lack of transparency can make it even difficult to identify and correct biases. So that also raising the concerns about accountability. So developing more interpretable AI models and methodology is essential for ensuring that the stakeholders, anyone can trust and validate the fairness in the assessment. The third one is the accessibility. So AI-driven testing platforms must be designed with the accessibility in mind as well, right? To ensure that all individuals, regardless of the disabilities, have equitable access to the assessment, right? This includes considering how the AI interfaces with assistive technology and whether AI-driven content can be easily understood and navigated by the all users or not. So another products that we are making is the voice over assessments and other things where some disability and certain things, the accessibility can be achieved as well. And then you have to have the ethical AI development and use and other thing and stuff. But addressing these concerns require a multidisciplinary approach, right, involving not only just the technologists, educators, but also the ethicists and policymakers, right? So by prioritizing ethical considerations and embedding fairness at the heart of the AI development processes, I think we can leverage the AI's capability to improve our industry, right? While ensuring that these advancements are benefits to all of us equally. Let me put it this way. But yeah.
Indeed. No, absolutely. And well, I mean, it's actually interesting even that you bring up, of course, accessibility as well, because I know there's some active research going on that is looking at how AI can actually improve accessibility and be used as a tool to augment some of the work that we do. So there's a bit of a double-edged sword to all of these things, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Jay, what about you? Where do you kind of see that emphasis with regard to ethical uses?
So I think the biggest thing for me probably is, as Trushant mentioned, transparency, right? So in the past, if you were going to try and develop a new process, or if you were going to try to, if you have like an academic paper or something that you've done some set of research on, the peer review is an important part of that step. And part of that is being able to look at the process that was involved, where the data came from, how the data was used, if there are any inherent biases. Because even if you are unaware of your own internal biases, they happen to be there, right? And especially if you have something like if you're going to train or fine tune a particular AI model, which is something that, given enough computational resources, one person can do, right? As long as you have the data, you can just sort of set it up and it runs. And then with limited oversight and limited number of people developing things, it really puts a lot more power in fewer hands, which is where things like bias thrive, right? So, I mean, even if you look at the history of testing in general, I mean, there's, just when you think about things like old incarnations of IQ examinations, right, had a lot of inherent internal biases that were used in a lot of really unethical ways, whether designed or accidental. But I think that having more things automated and having fewer humans in the loop is going to allow for more of that. And I think it's going to be very important to find ways to introduce that kind of oversight and those kinds of checks and balances. And I think that it's probably best, as I usually think it is, for the industry to be proactive in terms of setting that up, rather than have eventually something catastrophic happen and have legislation come in after the fact, which is just going to, put undue burden on things, and we won't be prepared for it. So, we know it's coming. This is part of the responsible use of this tool, I think, is to find ways to increase that transparency.
No, completely agree, Jay. And we're going to let you have the last word there, as we are just about out of time. So I just wanted to thank you both for spending some time today. Trushant, really appreciate, again, you being up incredibly late over there and spending your time with us. And Jay with guest star of Puppy. We appreciate you joining.
That was the AI topic. You know?
I know.
Yeah,
yeah. The AI topic arouses passion in everyone.
He's a very passionate boy. Yeah, he doesn't. He cares about AI and the neighbors doing yard work a lot.
There you go.
Well, again, gentlemen, I really appreciate the time today. And for all of those of you who have stuck around here, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month on our next edition of Beyond the Test. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, Rory.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.